week I started my review of the Defenders of the Earth NECA releases, starting of course with Ming the Merciless. Today I'm going to turn my attention to Ming's arch nemesis, Flash Gordon. Flash of course will need no introduction, as of course he has starred in many a serial, from his origins in Pulp Fiction and his early live action serials on the big and small screen, and of course many revival attempts across the years since. The most famous of course being the Flash Gordon film from the 1980s. And of course, this isn't the first time that we've had a Defenders of the Earth version of Flash Gordon in toy form, because toy company Galoob also made a supporting toy line for the animated series in the 1980s. And it is this toy line that NECA is trying to replicate, more so even than the actual animated series. It is definitely harking back to this branding that we see in these cards, both the art on the cards themselves, but even on things as subtle as the logo. In the previous video for Ming the Merciless, I did comment saying it was interesting how NECA had changed their logo, and I wasn't aware of this. Of course, that was my error, because clearly they are trying to emulate the style of Galoob. This is in fact a NECAized version of the Galoob logo. So without further ado, let's start with the review. And as always, I'm going to start off with the packaging, which hopefully you'll be able to recognise is mirroring very closely in terms of the branding and colour scheme what we see in the Galoob packaging. And I think this colour scheme works just as well today as it did back in the 1980s. The contrast between the bright of the yellow and of course that blue starry sky looks really nice, and really helps the figure pop in that window display. So I think this looks really good. We have got that sort of digitized illustrated image at the bottom there of Flash Gordon. I'm not as sold on this. I thought the image they chose for Ming was absolutely fantastic. I really loved it. I thought it worked very well. Here, I'm not as convinced, because it neither looks like the original packaging Flash Gordon, nor does it really emulate what we see on screen either in the animated series. It feels like it's its own thing, really. Like the hair looks a lot more curly, for example. And yeah, there's something about it I find a little bit, I don't know, jarring. The side panel is very nice. There is a big chunky box that we've come to expect from NECA, which looks really good. And I really like how they kept the original logo, and they've kept it very simple by having the portrait of the figure in that circle at the bottom. Again, makes these stacking up very nicely next to each other when you put them on the shelf. And then finally, on the reverse of the packaging, just as with Ming, we have the nice image at the top there of the Defenders of the Earth. We have the image of the other figures in the toy line, again replicating what we saw on the reverse of the original Galoob packaging, advertising the other figures in this line. So far, we've only had the Flash, the Phantom, and the Ming figures released, so I'm looking forward to Mandrake the Magician and Lothar coming soon. And then we have the image and a little bit of bio about Flash Gordon at the bottom of the packaging. So moving on to the figure himself, once he's been liberated from that packaging, he looks bright and colourful, although the body mould looks as if it's been repurposed from the Ming and the Phantom figures. In terms of the head sculpt, I think they've done a really nice job. I think what's interesting is that they seem to have captured more of a retro feel of the 1930s pulp character, more so than drawing on inspiration from the actual cartoon. If we compare the two, obviously he's got curly hair, he doesn't have that in the cartoon. There's definitely the face shape and everything. It doesn't quite look like it's the same character, and yet I think this is closer to a more authentic, classic Flash Gordon. The body sculpt, as I've mentioned, looks suspiciously like the same one we've seen on the Phantom and was on the base for Ming. That said, it is a very strong sculpt. I think the paint washes over this is excellent, because of course we haven't just got the red, we've got that dark black sort of shading going on as well, which really emphasises the sculpt, and it just makes it look a lot more textured and a lot richer. His yellow shoulder pads are more of a gold here as well, so it's got that slight metallic paint going on, which makes it look, again, more sumptuous, which I think is a nice decision. Works really well, and I really like his logo on his belt there. I think that's very distinct. We have the yellow in the background and the gold flash bolt, which makes it really stand out, and this looks very nice. And then of course we have the boots as well, which again have definitely been recycled from Ming and the Phantom. So nothing really to comment on here, except to say that it's a little bit disappointing that the peg joint, you can see quite clearly, obviously the red there. This would have been painted black, but as soon as you move it, it just tears away the paint. So it's a shame that this wasn't actually moulded in a black plastic rather than a red. There's no real surprises when it comes to articulation. It is pretty excellent. He's got the ball jointed head, so he can spin his head right the way around. He can look up and down virtually in any direction. Really strong range of motion here, which is absolutely fantastic. This is supported, of course, with a ball joint in the shoulder, which can kick his arms right the way up there, which is great. He's got a bicep swivel. He's got a double jointed elbow, so the arm can really crank backwards, which is great. And there is a pin swivel at the wrist as well, meaning the hand can rotate 360 degrees, and of course it can also hinge inwards and outwards as well. Now he's got a swivel at the waist, so he can move from side to side, and then this is supported with an ab crunch, which means he can bend forwards and backwards. Now it's not a huge range of motion when it comes to bending forwards, definitely stronger looking backwards, but again not a huge range all in all, which is a shame. He does have ball jointed hips, so he can kick his legs right the way out. He can kick them forwards and backwards a good distance as well. So this is all strong stuff. It's all supported with double jointed knees, so he can kick his legs right the way back. There is a swivel at the top of the boot cut there, which is fantastic, so he can move that around, no problems. And then there is a ball joint in the ankle as well, meaning of course he can arc his foot forwards, backwards, left, right, and there is even toe articulation. And just like Ming, he comes with a fair share of accessories as well. He comes with that blaster again. He has the two blast effects to support it. He has his sword and of course an array of different hands as well. And as you'd hope and expect from NECA, he can hold all of his accessories very easily, and it looks really good. So, of course, we've got his blaster here, we've got his sword, and again, his sword is also very nicely painted. It is a clear, translucent plastic on the blade, which is fantastic, and you can put him in a lot of different dynamic poses. There's a few different options we have here. Now, it's a shame he doesn't have more unique pieces. A lot of these have been recycled from the Ming figure, which was fantastic. The only really unique piece is this sword, but it is lovely nonetheless, and I think they have taken great efforts to give you a variety of different pieces to make this a very fun and dynamic figure. So for me, final score, well, I'm going to give it 4 stars. Now, I appreciate this may seem a little low since it hasn't really transgressed in any great way. I really like the body sculpt. I think they've done a fantastic job with the paint apps. I really like his accessories, and the articulation is fantastic. So what's not to love? Why is there that missing star? Well, honestly, I feel like he's been upstaged by Ming. And Ming was all of these things and more. He had that fantastic cape. He had a lot more interesting colours. He had even more accessories. And is it Flash's fault that he doesn't have more unique accessories? No, I just don't think there's anything extra to give him. I feel like they've given him certainly everything I would want him to have. Is it Flash's fault that he doesn't have a cape? Not at all. You can't blame NECA for that. But I think when you put these two figures next to each other on the shelf and you compare them, the Ming just pops and looks absolutely fantastic. And next to him, something about the Flash just looks underwhelming. And in the end, whilst there's nothing wrong with this Flash Gordon figure, if you are a fan, I definitely recommend you pick him up. I don't think you're going to be disappointed, but I think in contrast to the Ming is clearly another level above, and that's why Ming gets 5 and Flash sadly only gets the 4. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and remember to subscribe as there'll be plenty more videos soon.